This is the story of how I built the perfect, luxurious life on Instagram, and how that fake life nearly drove me into federal investigation and ruined the only real friendship I had left. If you saw my feed last year, you saw Chloe Davies, the successful 24-year-old lifestyle influencer, perfectly styled, driving expensive cars, constantly traveling between chic LA spots and exotic locations. You saw a girl who had it all. What you didn't see was the suffocating reality behind the lens. $40,000 in high-interest credit card debt and a crushing anxiety that woke me up every night at 3 a.m. My whole career was built on the mantra, "Fake it till you make it." I live in Los Angeles, the epicenter of manufactured perfection. My apartment, which looked spacious and airy on camera, was actually a tiny, cluttered one-bedroom near Venice Beach that required perfect lighting angles to hide the peeling paint. Every single item of clothing you saw me wearing in my daily Outposts outfit of the day was purchased using high-interest credit cards, worn with the tags tucked in, and returned within the 30-day window. The most crucial part of my image was the car. In LA, your car is your currency. I couldn't afford a beat-up Toyota, let alone a Mercedes G-Wagon. So, every few weeks, I would use my last bit of cash and a high-limit card to rent a luxury vehicle for just one glorious, expensive day. Last spring, I was standing outside a rented, cherry red convertible car I couldn't afford to keep for more than 8 hours trying to capture the perfect, spontaneous sunset shot. I was instructing my photographer, Liam, who was just as broke as I was. I said, "Liam, make sure the lens catches the reflection of the sunset on the hood. I need that effortless millionaire vibe. Also, crop out the dent on the front fender, please. And hurry, the return window is closing." Liam, sighing, said to me, "Chloe, you are going to drive yourself crazy. You're trying to project a life that doesn't exist. You have 3 credit cards maxed out, and you spent your last $100 on this rental." I snapped back, driven by desperation. "I have to do this, Liam. If I stop looking successful, the algorithm stops feeding me, and the brands stop calling. We are one big brand deal away from being actually successful." One big deal. The big deal I was chasing was a partnership with Apex Motors, a high-end electric luxury car brand. This wasn't just a sponsored post. It was a year-long ambassador contract that would give me a genuine 6-figure income, a free lease car, and, most importantly, legitimate stability. It was my ticket out of the debt cycle. I had been in negotiations with Apex's marketing director, Ms. Evelyn Reed, for months. The final contract was imminent. Then came the email that froze the blood in my veins. Ms. Reed wrote, "Dear Ms. Davies, we are moving into the final stages of the partnership. As part of our commitment to brand integrity and long-term association, our legal team requires a standard due diligence check. This includes a review of your financial standing, credit history, and public life over the last 3 years. This is simply standard procedure before signing a contract of this scale, due diligence." They were going to look behind the curtain. They were going to see the $40,000 credit card debt, the abysmal credit score that was barely hanging on, and the reality that I didn't own a single piece of the luxury life I broadcasted. The contract, my salvation, would be instantly revoked, and my reputation would be ruined before it even started. I had to weeks before they ran the official checks. I had to erase the $40,000 in debt. I immediately called the only person in my life who was completely grounded, financially secure, and completely oblivious to my online facade, my best friend since high school. Ava Chen. Ava is an accountant for a major tech firm. She despises social media trends and values truth and logic. She was my only anchor to the real world. I met Ava at a quiet coffee shop. Far from the influence-driven areas of LA, I began trying to keep my voice from shaking. Ava, I need your help. A huge opportunity came up, a massive contract. But I have a temporary cash flow problem. I need $20,000 immediately. Ava looked at me over her large accountant glasses. Her expression cautious, she asked, $20,000? Chloe, that's not temporary cash flow. That's a serious loan. What did you buy? Another designer dog? I lied, trying to sound mature and responsible. I said, no, it's an investment. It's a mandatory buy-in for a major media production company. It's part of the contract to secure my long-term future. I get it back with interest in 6 months. I just need a bridge loan, please, she replied, her skepticism clear. Chloe, I know you. You drop things the moment they get boring, and you never ask me about money. Why don't you just tell me the truth? What is the real debt? I couldn't tell her about the credit cards. I couldn't tell her that my entire life was a debt-fueled performance. It would destroy her respect for me. I confessed the half-truth. I told her, it's not an investment. I have a debt. I've overextended myself securing all the visual content I needed to get this Apex deal. The debt is $40,000. If I can just pay off $20,000 now, I can stabilize the rest and fix my credit score before the check runs. Ava leaned back, rubbing her temples. She finally told me, I can't lend you $20,000, Chloe. That's my down payment savings. But I can loan you $5,000. On to conditions. You tell me every detail of how you racked up this debt, and you sign a legally binding promissory note with a repayment schedule I set. $5,000 was a fraction of what I needed, but it was a start. I accepted, signed her meticulously drafted note, and spent 2 hours giving her vague, minimized details about business expenditures. With the $5, zero. I paid off one of the smaller, maxed out cards. I was still $35,000 in the hole, and the 2-week deadline was shrinking rapidly. I was drowning, and my desperation was about to lead me to the bottom feeders of the internet. I was looking for a fast, massive influx of cash. No questions asked. That's when I received a direct message on Instagram from an unfamiliar account at CryptoKing_OFFICIA. The message read, I see your engagement. We need a clean, high-profile face for a new decentralized finance project. We pay 7 figures for a 6-month exclusive partnership. Interested in real money, Chloe? 7 figures. $1 million. It was the kind of money that didn't just pay off my debt. It bought the real G-Wagon, the real apartment, and the real life I was faking. It was a tempting, dangerous lifeline. The direct message from @CryptoKing_official wasn't just an offer. It was a siren song in the dark. 7 figures. $1 million. The sheer scale of the number dwarfed my $35,000 remaining debt. It wasn't just a solution. It was instant, unearned freedom. The 2-week deadline for the Apex Motors due diligence was looming, and I knew Ava's cautious $5. Zero wouldn't save me. I had to take the risk. I started communicating with the man behind the account, who called himself Rex. He sounded slick, rushed, and perpetually excited. Rex represented a new token called Moonshot Coin, a meme cryptocurrency promising impossible returns based entirely on hype. And social media volume.rex was explicit about the strategy. He wrote to me in a lengthy message, Chloe, we need you to talk about disruption, financial freedom, and getting in early. You don't need to understand the tech. You need to drive the volume. We need your followers to believe this is their ticket to the G-Wagon life you post about. I knew, instinctively, that this was wrong. My influencer integrity, the thin, fragile line I claimed to walk, was screaming at me. This was a classic pump and dump. where the founders and early investors dump their coins for profit after the influencer-driven hype drives the price up, leaving the latecomers, my own followers, holding worthless tokens. But the Apex Motors deal was my last legitimate chance at a real life. I justified the lie to myself. I would only promote it until I got the money, pay off my debt, secure the Apex contract, and then I would stop. I messaged Rex back. I require an upfront payment of $100,000 immediately, wired to my account. The rest is negotiable based on performance. He replied instantly, deal. We need the first post up in 48 hours. Let's make some money, Chloe. The $100,000 hit my bank account the next day. Seeing that six-figure balance was like a powerful, addictive drug. I immediately paid off every cent of my $35,000 credit card debt. My credit score instantly jumped, and the paralyzing financial threat from the Apex due diligence was neutralized. But the deal was done. Now I had to sell the lie to my audience. I spent the next 3 days creating educational content about Moonshot Coin. I didn't hold the token myself, and I certainly didn't believe in it. But I used every trick in my influencer playbook. The urgency, the fear of missing out FOMO, and the subtle implication that I was personally investing. I posted a carousel of pictures of myself standing on a rented rooftop, looking thoughtful. The caption read, stepping away from the traditional. Your 9-to-5 income will never buy you freedom. Decentralized finance is the future. I'm exploring disruptive opportunities like hashtag MOONSHOT coin. Don't wait for permission to be rich. Hashtag add hashtag future of finance. The response was immediate and immense. My engagement numbers soared, and the Moonshot Coin Telegram channel exploded. My followers, many of whom were young, optimistic, and financially naive, poured their savings into the coin. I was successfully engineering a financial delusion. My best friend, Ava, noticed the sudden, aggressive shift in my content. She, the accountant, knew exactly what Moonshot Coin was. She called me, her voice sharp with accusation. She asked, Chloe, what are you doing? Moonshot Coin is a scam. It's got zero utility, and the white paper is total garbage. You know this is a pump and dump, don't you? I feigned innocence. I said, Ava, don't be so negative. It's a high-risk, high-reward investment. I am just sharing opportunities. It's not my job to vet the entire crypto market. She replied, her voice dropping with disappointment. Yes, it is your job. You have influence. People trust you. You're telling them you bought that convertible with a finance scheme you know is a lie. That's unethical, Chloe. I defended myself, desperate to justify the $100,000 that had saved me. I snapped, unethical. It's called business, Ava. I was drowning in debt because of the ridiculous pressure to look successful, and this saved me. I paid off my cards. I stabilized my life. What would you have preferred? That I fail the Apex due diligence and end up homeless? She concluded coldly. I would have preferred you told me the truth about the $40. Zero, so I could have helped you find a real solution. This solution is poison, Chloe. You're trading your friend's savings for your fake car. She hung up. I had pushed Ava away, but my immediate financial problem was solved. I had a clean credit history, zero debt, and the ability to project true financial stability. 2 days later, I sat across from Ms. Evelyn Reed at the Apex Motors corporate office, reviewing the final contract. Ms. Reed smiled warmly. She told me, Chloe, our legal team completed the financial review. Everything is spotless. Your credit score is excellent, and your financial management appears robust. We are delighted to welcome you to the Apex family. I signed the contract, the pen feeling heavy in my hand. $300,000 a year, a free lease car, and legitimacy. The price was my soul, but I had secured my future. I walked out of the Apex offices and immediately called Liam, my photographer. I told him, my voice euphoric. It's done. Liam, we did it. The Apex contract is signed. We are officially legitimate. We don't have to return the clothes anymore. He responded, his voice oddly subdued. That's great, Chloe. But you need to check your DMs. And you need to look at the Moonshot Coin Telegram channel. Something major is happening. I logged onto my Instagram, and the messages were overwhelming. A torrent of anger and panic. The price of Moonshot Coin, after hitting its peak from my promotion, had just crashed to zero. The founders, Rex and his team, had performed the classic rug pull, disappearing with the cash and leaving thousands of my followers with worthless tokens. And the collapse wasn't just affecting my followers. It was about to collide violently with my newly signed Apex contract. The moment the Moonshot coin price hit zero, my digital world exploded. It wasn't a slow burn of disappointment. It was an instant, chaotic supernova of fury, disappointment, and panic. The comments on my last 10 posts, which had previously been filled with heart emojis and praise, were instantly replaced by vitriol and raw fear. The messages were brutal and personal. I saw a comment from a user named BudgetingBit that read, I trusted you, Chloe. I pulled $3,000 out of my emergency fund because you said this was the future. It's all gone. You're a fraud. Another, from Gamer Gaiden, wrote, this was a pump and dump. You knew it. You sold out your own followers for a paycheck. Enjoy your fake luxury, you scammer. I felt physically ill. My phone felt hot in my hand, buzzing constantly with notifications. This was not the typical, fleeting social media drama. This was a genuine financial catastrophe for thousands of people who had taken my advice as financial gospel. Within hours, the larger drama channels on YouTube and TikTok picked up the story. My face was plastered everywhere with aggressive red captions, influencer rug pull scammer, and Chloe Davies exposed, trading followers for crypto cash. This was full-blown cancel culture, but fueled by real monetary loss. Every brand I had ever worked with began pulling my sponsored content down. My engagement dropped off a cliff, replaced entirely by hate comments and legal threats. My perfect void had not just cracked. It had shuddered into a million angry pieces. I immediately tried calling Rex, the contact from CryptoKing. The number was disconnected. His Instagram account, at CryptoKing_official, was deleted. They had taken the money and vanished, leaving me the visible face-to-face the digital firing. Squad. My one anchor to legitimacy, the Apex Motors contract, was now sailing toward the iceberg. I received a highly urgent email from Ms. Evelyn Reed at Apex Motors the next morning. It was short and terrifying. Ms. Reed wrote, Ms. Davies, we are aware of the situation regarding Moonshot Coin and the ensuing media coverage. Apex Motors maintains the highest standard of ethical conduct. We require an immediate, in-person meeting this afternoon at 2 p.m. to discuss the findings of our internal investigation into your recent activities. I called Liam, my photographer, desperate for advice or just a distraction. I asked him, my voice frantic, Liam, what do I do? They know. They must have seen the headlines. I just need them to believe I was scammed too, that I was a victim. He replied, sounding exhausted, Chloe, you signed the papers, you took the money, and you promoted it aggressively. You can't claim victimhood when you were the paid messenger. You need a liar, not a cover story. Liam was right, but the thought of admitting the fraud and risking the $300,000 Apex contract was unbearable. I still believed that if I could just perform one last, perfect lie, I could save myself. I went to the Apex Motors meeting, dressing in the most expensive, non-returnable suit I owned, trying to project a sense of professional control. Ms. Reed was waiting with the head of legal, Mr. Alistair Finch, a man with a severe expression and a stack of papers. There was no warmth this time. Finch started the meeting, his voice devoid of emotion. He stated, "Ms. Davies, our contract with you is contingent upon maintaining brand integrity and ethical behavior. We have evidence of a $100,000 payment from a holding company connected to the Moonshot Coin founders, deposited into your account just before the due diligence period concluded." I immediately launched into my defense. I said, trying to sound devastated, that payment was for a legitimate marketing contract. Mr. Finch, I had no idea about the pump and dump. I was deceived, just like my followers. I am a victim of a sophisticated financial fraud. Mr. Finch was unimpressed. He continued, "Your social media history, however, tells a different story. You consistently promoted a high-risk lifestyle while maintaining extensive high-interest credit card debt. Furthermore, our legal team reviewed your public profile before the due diligence. We noticed a major discrepancy." Ms. Reed finally interjected, her disappointment evident. She explained, "Chloe, the day after you signed our contract, we received an anonymous tip. The tip alleged that your friend, Ms. Ava Chen, was the source of a promissory note indicating a high-interest loan you took out. Just before our review, my heart sank. Ava, she hadn't betrayed me, but the existence of her loan and the subsequent rapid payoff with the Crypto King money painted a damning picture. They hadn't just looked at my credit score. They had pieced together the narrative of my desperation." Mr. Finch looked me straight in the eye and delivered the final blow. He said, "The rapid payoff of your debt with an anonymous $100,000 crypto payment is not just poor judgment. Ms. Davies, it demonstrates a pattern of financial desperation and a willingness to engage in high-risk, ethically bankrupt activities to maintain a fraudulent public image. We are terminating your contract immediately. Furthermore, given the public outcry and the potential for a class action lawsuit from your followers, the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has opened a preliminary investigation into your promotion of an unregistered security." The word "SEC investigation" hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't about losing a sponsor. This was about losing my freedom. I was escorted out of the Apex Motors office, the shame of being rejected by the very legitimacy I had craved burning in my throat. I walked back into the chaos of Los Angeles, not as the rising star influencer, but as a financial fraud suspect. I immediately drove to Ava's apartment. I had to apologize and seek her advice, even if it meant confirming every terrible judgment she had ever made about me. I banged on her door. When she opened it, I choked out, "Ava, they canceled the contract. The SEC is involved. They knew about the Moonshot scam, and they knew about your loan. I am so sorry. I lied about everything." Ava looked at me, not with triumph, but with deep sorrow. She said softly, "I know, Chloe. I saw the news. You didn't just hurt your followers. You hurt yourself. You built $1 million prison for yourself." She didn't invite me in. I had lost the contract, my reputation, my followers, and now my only real friend. The perfect life I faked had become a perfect trap. The look on Ava's face, the profound disappointment of my last true friend hurt more than the legal threats. I had prioritized the illusion of a luxury convertible over the reality of a genuine connection. The very next day, I started dismantling the life I had so meticulously built. I spoke with a lawyer specializing in securities and financial misrepresentation. The news was grim. While the SEC might not pursue criminal charges, the civil penalties for promoting an unregistered security and the subsequent class action lawsuits from defrauded followers would bankrupt me several times over. My legal future was dependent on full cooperation and showing immediate remorse. The digital hate was a relentless storm. My follower count plummeted from over 500,000 to less than 50,000. My income evaporated overnight. The shame was paralyzing. I knew I couldn't stay in Los Angeles. The city was a monument to my fraud, and I couldn't afford the tiny apartment anymore, let alone the debt and legal fees. I packed 2 duffel bags, real bags, containing my actual clothes, not the borrowed, tagged items, and booked a one-way flight back to my parents' house in Wichita, Kansas. Leaving LA felt like shedding a heavy, expensive skin. I was leaving the curated lighting, the rented glamour, and the constant pressure to be on. When I arrived home, my parents, traditional and quiet, were waiting. They had seen the news. The scandal was too big to ignore. My father, a retired teacher, simply hugged me tightly. He said, "Chloe, you're safe now. We didn't understand the pressures you were under, but we saw the pain in your face. We'll face the consequences together." My mother, holding back tears, told me, "We never cared about the borrowed cars or the fancy clothes, honey. We just wanted the real you back." Their unconditional love was a stark contrast to the conditional love of the algorithm and the brands. It was the first moment of genuine emotional safety I had felt in years. I spent the next 2 months working with my lawyer, liquidating every remaining asset, including the residual $65, zero from the CryptoKing payment, to begin paying the mounting legal fees and settling the smaller claims from my followers. I went through thousands of messages, reading the real stories of the people I had hurt. The young woman who lost her tuition money, the single mother who lost her savings buffer. I realized I owed my audience not just money, but a truthful narrative. After weeks of silence, I decided I had to make one final video. I set up my phone in my childhood bedroom in Wichita. No professional lighting, no makeup, just the stark reality of my life now. I called the channel Unfollowing the Lie. The video was difficult. I didn't defend myself. I confessed. I detailed the credit card debt, the fake car rentals, the paralyzing fear of the due diligence, and the desperation that led me to accept the pump and dump scheme. I said to the camera, my voice cracking, I built a prison of perfection that was financed by debt. When I got the chance to pay off that debt with dirty money, I took it. I hurt thousands of people who trusted me, and I destroyed my own integrity. I prioritized the look of success over the truth of my character. And for that, I am profoundly sorry. I also detailed the legal process, the financial penalties, and my commitment to helping my followers recoup some of their losses. It was the hardest, most honest thing I had ever produced. The response was different this time. The hate comments were still there, but they were mixed with a new wave of empathy and shared experience. People related to the pressure to perform a perfect life. One of the first messages I received was from Ava. She wrote me a simple text message. I watched the video. That was the real you, Chloe. Call me when you have time. I called her immediately. We didn't talk about the loan, the SEC, or the $40,000. We talked about real life, real friendship, and real goals. She was back. The financial fallout was immense. I was ordered to pay steep civil fines and had my income permanently garnished for a period. I ended up back in college, finishing my business degree, which I had abandoned for the easy money of influence. I worked a part-time job as a server to cover my expenses, honest work that required no performance. Only effort. My old Instagram account was abandoned. My new YouTube channel, Unfollowing the Lie, slowly grew, built on a foundation of brutal honesty about finance, pressure, and the cost of the digital fade. I started talking about budgeting, student debt, and the dangers of online scams, the topics I truly understood. I learned that true value doesn't come from a 7-figure contract or a trending hashtag. It comes from the ability to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of the person that. And all staring back. I was no longer Chloe Davies, the millionaire influencer. I was just Chloe, finding her way, one honest step at a time. And that, finally, was a life worth living.